Welcome to another episode of Fave 5 from Fans, the podcast where we explore all things favorite. I'm your host, whether you like it or not, Jamie Ray, and today we have the director, Jed Brian, joining me to discuss our Fave 5 Peter Lorre films. And this is going back, so, if you were born in a year that has a 2 at the beginning of it, you may not have any idea who we're talking about, but we're going to change that and tell you some really great films of his that you should watch. So, Jed, welcome to the show, sir.
Thanks for having me. I know this has been a long, long time coming, and I'm so looking forward to finally getting down and talking about one of the most underrated actors of all time.
Thank you. Charlie Chaplin himself called him the world's most incredible actor at one point. So,
Yeah,
yeah, he
and
is definitely a unique guy.
yeah, and I mean he's been impersonated by so many. You just look at Looney Tunes, Tim Burton. I mean, he's in pop culture, but unfortunately his name is forgotten to time. So hopefully this podcast will help perk people's interest. And I mean, there's a whole book called The Animated Peter Lorre where this guy has went through and wrote out all the different like cartoons or video games
Really?
where they've either done his voice or his look to imitate him. And it's a very fascinating book. I wish I had more photos in it, but it's pretty neat just to go through and to see all the different compilations of him being used. I mean, even in SpongeBob, Slappy the fish, he's inspired him. It's just crazy.
That's true. The man had over 110 films of just
Yeah.
him. And then almost you couldn't even count how many gave their homages to him. So
Yes, for
I'm
sure.
super excited to go through those lists.
Yeah.
I know you're a big horror fan, and I'm
hmm
a big horror fan. So I will also be interested to see if any of his non-horror films make your list or mine. And of
I
course,
think
what
you,
crossover we have.
right. I think you'll be surprised at my list.
I think that's great because I know how much you loved him. And it's kind of funny when we first started talking about this, we were trying to decide what to do. And you said how much you love Peter Lorre. And I was like, dude, boom, we're good. That's
There
what
we
we're going to
go. There we go.
yeah, so it'll be awesome. So, real quick, Peter Lorre was born Laszlo Lowenstein on June 26th, 1904 in Hungary, which, fun fact, I was number 91 for a week in Hungary. So,
Wow.
yeah, so I don't know
Shout
how
out.
that happened, but right now, if you're in Hungary, know that we're talking about your boy. He gained fame as the child killer Hans Beckert in the film M from 1931, inspired by the true Peter Curtin case. So after the Nazis rose to power in 1933, he left and sought refuge in Paris and in London, where Ivor Montagu encouraged Alfred Hitchcock, a young Alfred Hitchcock, to cast Peter Lorre in The Man Who Knew Too Much from 1934. And I just learned this. Peter Lorre learned his lines phonetically for that film and then went over to star in over 100 others. So great, interesting guy. Kind of sounds like the Scorpions of the horror universe because
Mhm.
they had to do the same thing with their first album. But that's who we're talking about, and I know that this was probably a very tough list for you. It was for
Yeah, it
me.
was.
I had to go back and rewatch several things to make sure, okay, well,
hmm
they can be or they can't be.
Right.
Um, but in making those lists, I asked you to come up with your 5 favorite lists, and if you needed it, you could come up with an honorable mention. And of course, an honorable mention is something that either just didn't you couldn't fit into the 1 through 5, or
Right.
maybe it's just such an interesting film that you had to discuss it.
Yeah.
And I understand you have one, correct?
Yeah, it was. I kind of had. I was going back and forth between one or two actually,
Uh-huh.
but yeah, the actual honorable mention was the Maltese Falcon,
Ah,
the role Joel Cairo, which a lot of people are probably shocked that that's not higher on my list. And the other one was of course Casablanca, his role in
right.
that one. But yeah, the Joel Cairo character in Maltese Falcon, just being this sniveling like little weasel type character. He's just such a fascinating character in that film, and it really does kind of show his range in that movie from being like this big tough guy, and then to being like this little kind of clammy type, little weasel type guy. So it's just I feel like that's such a great film, and then of course he's teamed up with the great Sidney Greenstreet, and then of course the amazing Humphrey Bogart. And
Yeah.
that film is such a classic film, and the same with Casablanca. I mean, they're both such iconic films, but yeah, the it was I really would like to squeeze him up higher, but there's so many other roles of his that are just higher on my list. But yeah, and if no one's ever seen the Maltese Falcon, they like a good like mystery movie, definitely check that out. And everyone says Casablanca is definitely one of the greatest films of all time. So yeah, just try to battle out between those two. But what about
Yeah.
you? What about your honorable mention?
Well, I have one honorable mention that is being mentioned because Peter does not is not in this movie at all. It is where he played Yetch the Creep from Mad Monster Party. Um, so no, why is this the go-to? The only my go-to movie from Halloween that only gets an honorable mention. It's because Yetch, even though he's not voiced by Peter Lorre, he is obviously Peter Lorre. He's voiced by a man named Alan. There he goes.
Yeah,
That's him.
yeah. Monster Resurrection Studio, they make Peter Lorre masks, but yeah, the cartoon version, the duplicated of his likeness, that's
That
yeah,
is awesome.
yeah.
Because
I had to buy it. I had to buy
yeah,
it.
of course. Is it actually you can actually put it on?
Yeah. It
Oh
actually
my gosh.
has the slit in the back, but I didn't have him cut out the eye holes
Uh-huh.
for filmmaking purposes. I figured if I ever use this for like a short film or something like that, I could guide my actor in it, so I could at least make it to where you could put it on, but can't see out of it. But it's just such a creepy mask,
That
just
is creepy. That looks just like him too.
yeah, he did a
And,
great job. They
he
sculpted it
did a
amazingly.
lot. Yeah, he did a lot of stuff that was kind of out there and whatnot.
Hmm.
And so that's why when this movie came along, I was surprised that it wasn't his voice because this guy,
Yeah.
Alan Swift, did a great job
Oh
of
yeah.
sounding like him.
Yeah.
So we just did a panel over this weekend past about non-horror or horror films for non-horror fans. And this was one on my list that you can sit down with children of just about any age and
Hmm.
watch, and you get all of the monsters.
Yeah. All that
So,
nostalgia.
so good, and you get singing skeletons.
Yeah, there
Um,
you go.
but anyway, I love that one, and that's the only one I could give for an honorable mention.
There you
But
go.
what I did do is come up with five of my own, just like you did. So if you're ready, let's just dive right in and give me your number five.
I think this is going to be another shocker for people, but number five is M, where Peter Lorre plays Hans Burkett. This was his breakout role, as you had stated. He had spent time, he was European, and this was the film that basically put him on the map, playing this, iconic child killer that had this whistle that kind of helped his with his capture. But yeah, it was just such a fascinating film and performance, especially whenever you have the spoiler, but the kangaroo court with the gangsters, and basically prosecuting this child killer that has made the police crack down so hard on their criminal activities. And, it just makes you, even though this guy has been killing children and stuff, just his performance just makes you feel so sorry for the human aspect of where he says, I cannot help this. And it just, it makes you feel torn with his performance of, why am I feeling sorry for this person? And, and basically they're pleading for, he's pleading for his life and admitting what he has done is wrong, but he can't help himself. And just, it's just such a fascinating film all in all. And just his performance, you could just tell what struck a chord with Hitchcock to make him come over and be in The Man Who Knew Too Much. So yeah,
Yeah.
that would be number
Well,
5 on my list.
that is definitely an awesome one. Talk about a bleak film, and then you find
Yeah.
out it's based on some true events.
Hmm. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Fritz Lang did a fantastic job with that, and then, the iconic M on the back of the jacket, it's just, and, Laurie in the mirror doing the smile and
Uh-huh.
stuff. And,
Uh-huh.
you could see that in Todd Phillips's Joker film, like the little reference to that. So it's just, just such an amazing performance. And, like I said, I'm sure that a lot of people's list, that's probably their number one pick. But, right now, that just rounds out my top 5.
Well, there you go. Well,
What
all
about you?
right.
What's your number 5?
Well, my number 5 is Dr. Gogol from Mad Love,
That's
Mad Love, aka
hmm
of Orlok. This is just a disturbing film. If you've ever seen
hmm
the image of Peter Lorre with like a neck brace,
hmm
and then he's got the teeth, this is where that movie comes from.
hmm
And it's basically the story around a doctor's obsession with a beautiful actress. And then when his hands are destroyed in a train accident, um, he, she brings him to see Dr. Gogol, and Orlok's like he has to have his hands back. But then Gogol becomes obsessed with doing anything he can for Yvonne. So he makes him some new hands so that she'll love him. But of course, that doesn't work. But
Yeah.
this entire movie is made by that scene where he's
Mm.
got that get up, and it's just,
In the
oh,
hat and everything. Yeah.
it's so crazy.
Yeah.
Um, but I've always loved that one, and I think and that was 35.
Yeah.
So I mean, this is still very early in his career,
Right.
um, and just thought it was a great one. Is that
Yeah.
you like that one?
Oh, yeah. It actually, you'll be surprised, actually, it's not on my top 5 list.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So that's we avoid using the T word around here.
Oh,
Yeah,
my
yeah, but
Fave 5.
there you go.
Fave 5. Fave 5.
You're new, so I'm not going to charge you, but usually it's
Yeah.
a quarter every time.
Oh, man, man. All right. Fave 5. I got
There
it.
you
I have to write it on my arm.
go. Don't do that. Instead, why don't you tell us what your number 4 would be?
My number 4, it was a very small performance of his, but many consider this film the first ever noir film, Stranger on the Third Floor, where basically a man is accused of killing a person. And it's such a weird, surreal film. And basically, his girlfriend is the one who is trying to track down and figure out who this real killer is. And Peter Lorre puts on one of my all-time favorite performances of being like this just creepy, just real, like, can I have a couple of hamburgers and make them raw? Like, I mean, it's such a eerie and creepy performance. I mean, he's only in the movie for about, I don't know, maybe 10 minutes, 5, 10 minutes
Wow,
tops.
really?
But the performance is just like, I mean, you could just probably go on YouTube and just type in Peter Lorre, Stranger on the Third Floor, and you can just look at it, just his performance and just like his hollow out eyes. And the girl follows him home and tries to ask him, like, why, about, what you're doing and stuff. And, he said, well, I had to kill them or they were going to send me back. You're not going to send me back, are you? It's just, it's just so chilling, just like his whole performance. And,
It really is. I'm
like,
looking at pictures now.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it's such a underrated film and just an amazing performance. I'm one of those type of guys that, yeah, I mean, you have the mainstream films that everybody knows and loves of his, but I like digging into those nitty-gritty, performances. And like I said, that is, if you've never seen the film, such an amazing movie, but that performance is like one of the creepiest performances I've ever seen him do. And just, just and just his range in it, where he goes from soft spoken to just out of control.
And I see Elijah Cook is in this with him too.
Yeah,
They were
yeah.
both in either Casablanca or no, it was Casablanca, I think. Um,
And then, gosh, what's the guy's name? He's in Vincent Price's Night of the Living Dead. I can't think of his name. He's at the
Baldwin.
Yeah, I think he's the at the very beginning. He's the head that pops out of the blackness, and it's like the ghosts are moving tonight. Him.
Yes.
He's in the movie as well, and yeah, it's just kind of a very interesting ordeal. But I kind of messed up the plot a little bit because actually, the girl's husband or boyfriend's the one who witnesses basically the tail end of a murder, and it's him who is put in jail, and he basically is the one who accuses him of being the murderer and starts playing on his conscience and that maybe he really is innocent. And then he ends up seeing Peter Lorre in his apartment building where another murder has taken place. So now they're accusing him of possibly being the murderer. And then his girlfriend gets involved and tracks down Peter Lorre, who is this stranger on the third floor.
Man, that's I'm putting that on my list because
You,
that's never been on my radar.
Yeah, definitely. It's like I said, they consider it one of the first ever noir films, and I think it's such an amazing film. Underrated for sure.
That is awesome. I will because he does look incredibly creepy in this one. Wow.
Yes. So what is your next fave five?
Well, mine is from a vignette in an anthology film called Tales of Terror from 1962, and he is in The Black Cat, where he plays Poe's Montrestor Herringbourne, who dislikes his wife Annabelle and, of course, her black cat. So, as the story goes, while one night out he meets wine expert Fortunato.
Mhm.
That name sounds familiar. And he challenges him to a contest, eventually both becoming drunk. Then, when Lutresi and Annabelle become intimate and Herring finds out about it, he entombs them together. So it's kind of like putting the cask of a
Yeah.
Montenegro
Yeah.
and the Black Cat together into one story, which I
Yeah.
love them doing.
Hmm.
And then, he walls them in, and eventually, when the police investigate, he can't stand it anymore, and they figure out what happened.
Yeah, and a little bit of Telltale Heart in there too, a little bit, with the confession of
Yes,
them
you're
coming
right. You're
over.
right.
So yeah, that is a really amazing performance for sure. And then the whole like the wine thing back and forth between him and Vincent Price is, iconic.
They did a lot of movies together.
Hmm. One with
You
Jack
know,
Nicholson.
yeah, yeah. It's hard so many of these actors, they don't get talked about enough anymore.
Hmm. Hmm.
Rory, definitely one of those. When you
Hmm.
go back and you look at all of the movies that he was in and all of the people that he,
Hmm.
acted with, you would think his name would be synonymous just, with the
Yeah.
golden age, but so many
Yeah.
times not. Um, but anyway, that's going to be my number four. Shout out to Edgar Allan Poe for writing such incredible work.
Hmm.
But now I would like to hear, as we continue our list, what your number three is.
My number three is a film that has Cary Grant in it. The film Arsenic and Old Lace.
We have a match.
All right.
That is also my number three.
That's great. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, Dr. Einstein. And the saddest part about that film is that they wanted Boris Karloff to play that what's the character's name? They wanted to play the other role and they
Oh,
couldn't get him. And I think if they Johnny, that's what it was. If they wanted him for the role Johnny, and then you have the iconic line that, he said I look like Boris Karloff. And then, Peter Lorre's like, um, or what she say? I think it was his aunt that was like, he looks just like the face from that horror picture we saw. And Peter Lorre's like, I saw that movie too, right before I operated. I was intoxicated. It's like
You do a really good job of that.
it's such a icon, just the whole film and Carrie's performance in it. It's just, it's such an amazing film. And I recently found that film, like I think 2 years ago, when I was just going through Laurie's IMDb and just trying to watch anything and everything that I could see. And that was, I was like, my gosh, this is just such an amazing performance for sure. And just, the comedy aspect mixed in with the horror and the mystery and all that, just all combined. I feel like it's just such a great mix.
Yeah. Well, and I'm looking it up right now to be sure I was right. Because I also love old radio, dramas and
Hmm.
stuff like that.
Hmm.
And I am right in that Boris Karloff did play Johnny in the radio
Radio
program
version.
version of
Yeah.
it. But I
Yeah.
don't think Peter Lorre
Was
was
in
in
it.
it as well. I think it
Gosh,
was
if you had
someone else.
both of them in the film, it
What?
just would have it'd been awesome if they could have had them both in the film together.
That would have been really awesome.
Yeah.
I could remember listening to that and it sounded really, really great.
There's
Uh,
one of my favorite records is actually a Peter Lorre radio special called Death Do Us Part. And if
okay.
you've never heard it, it is such a chilling performance. It's basically about this is right when World War II is starting in I think this takes place in Britain, I believe. And Peter Lorre is pretty popular in the community, but he basically accuses his wife of cheating on him, and without giving any spoilers, he's poisoned her.
Oh,
And there's a whole bunch of twists and turns in it, but I don't want to give it away. But it is such an amazing vocal performance by him, and everyone else in the cast it's amazing. But you can find it on YouTube. But they actually had a vinyl record of it, and it's on the B side there's a Vincent Price one, and then on the A side it's Peter Lorre, and it's such an amazing performance.
that's awesome. I
Yeah,
do
yeah,
hear him occasionally come up on it's an satellite service channel, old time radio, I think it's called.
yeah,
But I've heard him do several things, and I'm,
yeah.
I'm I'm interested to think they may have done that Stranger on the Third Floor as well with him. Is
As a
there a
radio
scene,
performer.
yeah, is there a scene where he like is turns off the heater and blows it out and then turns it back on so the gas fills up the room? Is
There,
that in that?
I think I can't remember if no, that's the gosh, that's another one. The face behind the mask, I think.
Oh,
Well,
okay.
no, wait, maybe no. That I don't know. There's so many. Like I said, there's so many great performances. Which and the face
Oh
behind the
yeah.
mask is another one. But I couldn't fit it on my list. So
And then, I mean, of course, we are going on about Peter Lorre, but the film Arsenic and Old Lace itself is
mm,
just a wonderful,
yeah,
funny,
yeah,
scary, screwy,
yeah,
creepy, all of those things put together.
yeah.
And the
And
two old ladies who play his aunts. Uh,
it's fantastic.
Oh,
Yeah.
fantastic.
Yeah, I think my signed photo, I think it's from around that time period. So I
Yeah.
don't know if everyone can see that, but yeah,
Yeah.
this is
You had
my
to,
my grail
had to,
piece
had
here.
to stretch with that, didn't you? Yeah, you were
Yeah,
saving that one to show off.
yeah, heck yeah, heck yeah. I got one more surprise to show you too.
Oh,
So
okay.
yeah,
Oh, he's
yeah.
bringing it. All
Yeah,
right.
I had, whenever you're a fan of, and you have stuff and you just want to kind of show it, to what,
Yeah.
what's out there because people sometimes don't realize like some of the cool movie stuff that you can pick up. So,
hmm hmm Wow. Well, I'll tell you what, this is a great place for us to stop our lists and let's talk a little bit about you, your love for Peter Lorre, kind of maybe where it came from, and then we want to talk about ACM. Boop,
yeah,
boop.
ACM official, and then we talk about unlisted owner and some of the other stuff I got going on. So,
All
yeah,
right.
so I guess my love for Peter Lorre, I guess it started. I don't know, probably like 6 years ago, whenever I started really trying to get into, I'm a huge classic film buff. I mean, I grew up watching House on Haunted Hill,
Mm.
grew up watching Three Stooges. I grew up watching, Dick Van Dyke Show, black and white shows have just, always been a part of my life since I was a kid. And, you know, I, I watched, I think it was Casablanca I watched. And I'm like, man, he really, like, this guy's a really good actor. And he just seems like familiar, like I should know him from somewhere.
Uh-huh.
So then, I looked him up on IMDb and I'm like, my God, this guy's been parodied so much. I'm very intrigued because some of my, like favorite characters that because like Looney Tunes, the Dr. Lorre character and stuff. And I'm like, wow, this guy has influenced so much pop culture and no one knows anything about him. I need to dig deeper on this guy to see really who this guy was. And then I just
Mhm.
started going down the rabbit hole. And then I just started being like, wow, just every performance that I've seen him in is just fantastic. And, there's so many that I didn't put on the list, but it's just like, it's just endless the amount of amazing performances. Like you said, Charlie Chaplin even said, he is the greatest living actor. So my number one actor of all time is Lon Chaney, but number two is Peter Lorre. So because
Wow, strong words.
To me, Lon Chaney is, I'm not sure exactly what direction horror especially would have went in if it wasn't for Lon Chaney's performances in film. But to me, Peter Lorre just came into the scene and just, unfortunately he didn't get a lot of leading roles, but the roles that he did have, I mean, he just took him to a whole new level.
Exactly. I mean, he is remembered for the roles that he
Yeah.
played in the
Yeah,
small bit.
100%. 100%. But
Um,
go ahead.
I was going to say, do you, before you move on, do you feel that London After Midnight is ever going to be found?
I will be honest. I think I mean, I think there is a possibility because, they're finding stuff all the time, So, I mean, there's people that, I mean, I think they said the last known copy burn up in like the 50s or 60s, and that was an MGM vault fire, I think. I'm
I think
pretty
you're right.
sure. So if you think about, they just found, oh, what is it?
Found
I
all of
can't.
that stuff from Metropolis not too
Yeah.
long ago.
And there was there's a woman, I can't think of the name of the actress. Taylor Swift actually has a song about her. It's just
Uh,
kind of a weird thing. My wife told me about this song or whatever, but they had just found a lost film of hers that was not even listed on her IMDb. Like they had no clue it existed. And it was like
wow.
some film warehouse went out of business and this guy bought a pallet of films because it had some cartoons on it. And when he's going through, he found this grail that had never before seen. So, I
Wow.
mean, my grandma, she was born in 1930. She's in her 90s now. So, I mean, there is a chance, that somebody's attic or, some warehouse somewhere that's, or some
Or
film.
vault in South America somewhere.
Yeah, yeah, or some, or some big film buff that has it and is afraid to let go of it because they're afraid someone will mess it up and they feel like they can take better care of it because there's people out there like that that are hardcore collectors. I know some people out there that have films that, they will not let anybody touch.
Yeah.
So, I think there is a possibility. I don't know if it'll happen in my lifetime, but like I
Oh,
said, never say never.
yeah. I just picked up well, the Kickstarter just ended. They did a graphic novel um, of London After
London
Midnight,
after midnight.
using all of the likenesses of the characters.
Mm,
So I'm really excited to see that come
yeah.
in.
Yeah, because that character, I mean, the man in the beaver hat, actually, my son, he loves action figures. So on his Christmas list was the London After Midnight Lon Chaney. So
Oh
he
yeah.
has it. Yeah. So, and that's just such an amazing makeup and the hat and just everything. Yeah.
Heath,
So, yeah, the teeth. Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know, he really was a man of a thousand faces.
He has 100%.
Yeah. So okay, so let's talk a little bit about how I mean one the way we kind of connected was over Unlisted Owner.
Owner. Yeah.
So tell
Yeah.
us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so Unlisted Owner is a my feature-length found footage horror film that I actually started shooting in 2011. We wrapped it in 2013, and then I ended up getting a distribution deal in 2017, and then we were able to put it on Amazon and just, went worldwide with it, and it made the Amazon top 10 for hot new horror releases in 2017 for DVD, and we were going up against The Walking Dead season 7 release. Ash versus Evil Dead. I think Raw was on the list. So we were battling out with all these films, and it was
That's
like October
amazing.
time. So to be on that list was just surreal to me. But no, it's taken on a life of its own. It has a fan base, which is crazy to me. I mean, I've had people send copies of the movie in the mail to me and me autograph and send back. And there's a horror con
I've
in
got an
Knoxville.
autographed Blu-ray, so
Yep, there we go. There we go. There's a horror con in Knoxville, Tennessee, and they actually booked me as a celebrity guest. So I got to come down and, sign
Ooh,
autographs and stuff like that for
eight
that.
by
And
tens
that
printed.
was, yeah, yeah. So it's been a surreal thing. I mean, there's a trading card company called Terror Cards, and they actually hit me up about doing a collab with like they do digital cards, which I've already done stuff with that, but they wanted physical. So I actually took my costume and my friend Gavin, who's in the movie's costume, and we actually sent it off, and they actually made costume relic cards and with
Wow,
dual autos, and they did it as a promotion on the app, and they only made 25 of them. So it was,
it's
so this is,
cool.
yeah. So Unlisted Owner is really taken on a life of its own, and even it's opened so many doors. Like, well, that tarot cards, whenever the NFT thing was going big, they actually hired me to make an NFT horror film for them. So we did a short horror film called Trick Not Treat. That was one of the first ever NFT horror films ever. So
Oh,
that was pretty cool. And then um, and now Unlisted Owner is actually on VHS. So there's actually VHS copies you can get. I usually bring those to conventions and stuff like that. I had a little girl ask me one time, she's like, are those books? And my beard, you'd be seeing the Santa Claus of 10 Mile, and it just went.
yeah,
So
I love VHS. I've got
yeah.
DFW on a copy on
Oh,
VHS.
really?
Yeah,
My
yeah.
my most prized VHS is my King Kong versus Godzilla that I had. The Godzilla suit actor is Hiro Nakajima, I think is his name.
Okay.
I probably butchered it, but anyways, he was the first Godzilla suit actor. I had him sign it, and then Beckett now does like autograph authentications for VHSs and grades them. So I
Mhm.
submitted it to Beckett, and I have it like encapsulated, and that's like one of my
Wow,
prized VHSs. Yeah. So
that's awesome.
yeah. And that was
Wow.
before, the VHS collecting was like what it is
I know.
now. So
Like, wait a minute. I remember throwing some of this stuff away. Why?
yeah,
How much are you paying for it?
yeah,
Okay.
yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Uh,
So, but yeah, with Unlisted Owner, ACM Official actually came about. My friend Alex Magana, who owns and operates ACM Official, which is a YouTube horror short channel. And he's based out of LA. He had actually reached out to me about a collaboration on horror anthology that didn't come to light, but he basically started doing, or he was wanting to possibly do some horror short films for his YouTube channel. He actually did a contest, and I kind of helped develop this character called Smiling Woman. And the Smiling Woman video went viral and got it. Right now, I think it's up to 18 million views. So then he decided he was going to start doing one horror short a week. So I started kind of pitching ideas to him, and then I started actually writing scripts for him. And his channel went from 10, he was doing just Chicano rap music videos, and he had like 10,000 subscribers, and now it's grown to like 745,000 subscribers now.
wow.
And so
And 185 videos.
oh yeah, it's insane. I've acted in I think there's two of them that I've acted in for him. He actually flew out. He's based in LA, and he
Oh,
flew to my area because I live in southeastern Illinois, and we actually filmed one called Night Shift at the local movie theater, and I played the villain in it. My nephew's in it and stuff, and that video has like over 1 million some views, and so yeah, it's been pretty cool. I actually wrote a script for him last night, so we'll see how that one turns out. What he ends up doing with that one, but yeah, it's been a fun thing to be a part of and just watch grow to the massive fan base that it has.
yeah. I'm looking at them right now. I just subscribed.
Awesome,
There's
thank you.
weird looking stuff on
Oh
here.
yeah, yeah.
Okay, looks like it's gonna be fun.
Yeah, the ones the my favorite ones would be probably Night Shift, Date with a Serial Killer, Pumpkin Man. I'm trying to think of some other ones missing. Those are some of the ones that I've written on that I'm really proud of.
Oh,
That I think are kind of neat. But it's weird because sometimes you just don't know what's going to stick and what is, and it's just been a very very cool process to be a part of. And then I think Smiling Woman 5 and 6 that I wrote on has Felissa Rose in it from Sleepaway Camp.
oh God, I
So.
love her so
Yeah.
much.
Yeah, so you'll have
Oh,
to you'll have to check it. Actually, when I was at that horror con in Knoxville, I actually printed out the script because I wasn't able to make it out there when they actually shot it out in LA. And so I brought the script to the con and she signed it for me and stuff. And we talked about Smiling Woman and how cool it is because it's went over so viral. So
that's awesome. She's such an incredible person.
yeah,
I
she is super nice, super great lady.
Everyone she meets is her best friend. I
Oh
mean,
yeah, 100%.
yeah,
Yeah.
she's
Yeah, yeah. So if anyone wants to check it out, it's ASEAM Official on YouTube. And like I said, just go down through the videos and just watch them all. And if you want to see which ones I've written on, you can go to my IMDb or just click on the description of the video and you can see which ones I've written on or act in and stuff like that. So
yeah. I found Pumpkin Man.
yeah, Pumpkin Man. I like Pumpkin Man. It's a good. I like those urban legend type horror films.
Hmm.
I'm a huge fan of the Legend of Sleepy Hollow. It's like my all-time favorite ghost story. So I love those little ghost story type.
Yeah, that's cool. So, do you have another feature film in the works
I'm working on
that
a
you can
script
talk
right
about?
now. I can't really get into detail about it. I can say that I'm on my I think it's my fourth draft of it. So this
Okay.
is the most like in depth I've ever gotten with a script. I've
Yeah.
done some rewrites here and there, but nothing like this. Just kind of like writing it and then taking it and tearing it apart and going back through it and just trying to get, the story arcs right, the characters, get them right, get the antagonist, get everybody, where it needs to be to try to make the best thing possible. Because, I'm at a point in my life where I have, the kids and, a wife and, day job and stuff. And I want my next project, my next feature to be something that I know is going to be, not something I'm just throwing at the wall just to make another film. I want to
Yeah.
make sure that it's exactly what I want it to be and not make it be like regrets afterwards. So,
Right.
but I do have a short film that I'm currently in post production on that I'm very proud of. It's only 5 minutes, but it's called Ghost Train. And we actually filmed it on the historic Wabash Cannonball Bridge, which is an old train bridge that goes over the Wabash River. It connects, divides Illinois and Indiana. And
Uh-huh.
they made it into a driving bridge. So we actually were able to shut that down for a night and film on that. And then we also went to French Lick Scenic Railways, where Larry Bird, the famous basketball player, is from. And they have like an old 1920s Rock Island train car, and we were able to film there. And then we
That's
filmed,
awesome.
yeah, and then we filmed some of the interior car scenes. Since we don't have a sound stage, we were able to get an airplane hangar and film inside there. And I flew in some actor friends of mine from LA to be a part of it. And the acting is amazing. The sets just turned out beautiful, and just I'm so excited. So we've been working on it for 2 years on the effects and stuff because I just want to make sure we get it just right. But we're getting really close to getting it there. So
Yeah.
there's a poster out for it too. I'll have to send you a picture of it. But
Okay.
Neil Fraser
Yeah.
Graphics did,
He's
yeah,
been
he
on the
did.
show before.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I figured if I dropped that name, it might ring a bell, but he did the artwork for it.
That's
So, and
he's
Neil
incredible.
also, oh yeah, Yeah, it's turning out amazing, and I'm so excited and blessed to have the people I had on it. So my wife did the special effects makeup for our Ghost Porter character, and it's just, it just it's turning out so great. I can't wait for everyone to see it.
All right, and where will it probably show up that we can see it?
I'm not exactly 100% sure where it's going to end up. My plan is once we get it done, I'm going to submit it to as many festivals as possible and just put it out there. And then after that, I don't know. I'm gonna maybe put it on YouTube or just see where it goes. I'm not sure yet where I'm going to go after that because it is only 5 minutes, but I think people are really gonna dig it. So, I mean, it has the ghost story with it and just has everything in a horror film that I love. I put into this. So I'm excited to see what everyone else's opinions are of it.
Awesome. Well, if you ever need a chubby bald guy with a beard,
There we go. There we
go.
go.
Well, that is awesome. And again, we're going to get all your socials, all your links on here. We're going to put them at the end so people can find them.
Awesome.
I have at least 13 fans.
There we go.
I mean,
get 13 more views on Unlisted
there's
Owner.
Power behind that,
on Amazon or Tubi, and then get 13 more subscribers to ACM Official. Help us hit that million mark. So,
and I've got the inn in Hungary as well. So
there we go. There we go.
You're just going to blow up when this comes out. So just be prepared to walk away from that day job.
I'll order some more Sharpies.
Wow, well, that's great. Well, this is fun, but I think this is the part of the show that so many people look forward to, and that is going to be our penultimate selections. Our number 2.
Drum roll.
So why don't you go ahead and throw it out?
So my next pick is it's a comedy that has horror elements. It stars Kay Kaiser, which I'm not sure if you're familiar with Kay Kaiser, but he was a band leader back in probably the 30s and 40s. He had his own radio show, but it also has Bela Lugosi in it. It also has Boris Karloff in it and Peter Lorre. And it's You'll Find Out. I don't know if you've ever seen it or not.
I have not seen it, but I am familiar with it.
It has some 40s music that may be a little rough to get through at times, but the performance of Lorre playing Dr. Carl Fedinger is just incredible. And there's an image online of Peter Lorre with a handgun, Boris Karloff with a handgun, and Bela Lugosi holding a stick of dynamite. And it's like one of the most ultimate photos that you'll ever see from that film. But it's basically Kay Kaiser's agent. His girlfriend's having a birthday party, so they're going to bring his band up. And when they get there, the house is full of like weird, like African safari stuff and trophies. And they actually use some of the props from King Kong in this film. But this girl's father had died on a hunting trip in Africa, and Boris Karloff, who was the judge, was his best friend and was there when he died. And she has an aunt, which was her dad's sister, that uses Bela Lugosi to communicate with her dead father using these seances and basically spending the family's money on these seances. And so the girl decides to hire a person who basically busts psychics. And that person that she hires is Peter Lorre to come and investigate this Saliano, as Bela Lugosi's character is. And there's some twists and turns. I don't want to spoil it for everybody, but it is such a cool like mystery comedy film. And Lorre's performance in it is just iconic in my opinion. So, but yeah, You'll Find Out. Yeah, definitely one to check out. I wish Lugosi had a little bit more of a performance in it than what he has. It's a little more limited compared to Karloff and Lorre, but it's still such a cool film to see.
So I'm looking at a picture of Karloff and Lorre, and they're both in tuxes.
Yeah.
And Karloff just looks amazing, so dapper.
Yeah.
and Peter Lorre looks like he's about two sizes too small for that
Yeah,
suit.
yeah. Did you find the picture of Lori
No, it's not
Lugosi?
on IMDb, but
Yeah,
I'm gonna have to
yeah.
go look for that now.
Oh,
Um,
it's such a cool picture because, like I said, it's so random because Lori has a pistol, Karloff has a pistol, and Lugosi has a turban on, and he's holding a stick of dynamite.
that is awesome. I'll find that one though. Wow, this looks like a fun movie.
It's very fun. It's very, like I said, there's some campy, just like,
Yeah,
comedy from that era, but it's still just, it's just a fun watch and just to see where it's going to go. And like I said, and Laurie's performance and Karloff, both and like what's going to happen and stuff. And the seance is pretty cool that they do the
yeah.
seance sequences. So
This definitely looks like a movie that could use a good riffing.
yeah, there you go. There you
Yeah,
go.
that's awesome.
So
And
what's your number two?
that's not Denver Pyle in there, is it?
It
Uh,
might, I'm not
no,
sure.
A. Bogue. He looks like maybe his younger cousin. I don't know. But anyway, I am going uh, to come against that one with my own Boris Karloff co-starring film. This is from 1963 in full glorious color, where he portrays Dr. Adolphus Bedloe in The Raven,
Yeah, it's a good
which
one.
pretty much has nothing to do with the Poe
With the
story except for the name. But so he gets turned into a raven by Dr. Scarabus, who's played by Boris Karloff. And so he must turn to a former sorcerer friend named Dr. Craven, who is played by Vincent Price, for help. Um, it's so funny because a good part of the movie is only his voice with the crow, with the raven talking to Vincent Price. And it has that really great sorcerer battle at the end.
hmm
They seem wholly unmatched, but yet still it ends up with a really cool ending. Um,
Yeah.
this is one of the films where I first noticed that Peter a lot of times he looks like he's almost gonna break out in sweat. Like
hmm
it's right there, and he's not, and it's just I've never seen anybody else be able to carry that kind
Yeah.
of look where he's so worked up, he's just about to lose it, but he never
hmm
does.
Yeah.
And again, we don't have a lot of color films with him.
Right.
This one
100%.
is so glorious and has such, nice colors, and it's fun.
hmm
They're poking jabs at each other all the time.
And Jack
Uh,
Nicholson's in that one, right? Is that the one Jack
no.
Nicholson? No?
That's you're
Sam.
right. He plays his son.
Okay,
He's the one
yeah.
that brings him up. Yes, you're
Okay.
right. Totally forgot about that.
Because one of the cool behind the scenes videos from The Shining is Jack Nicholson going through his script. Have you seen that video? And
No,
he's like draw like check marking beside his lines, and he said, "I learned this from Boris Karloff," and I'm like, that is so cool.
that is awesome. Yes, so now I'm seeing it. I remember there's a whole scene. I haven't come across it yet. I think where they're in a horse and buggy.
Okay, yep, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Wow. And always with the beautiful ladies.
yep. There you go.
Wow. Nope, that's a good one. Yep. So, that's my number two. So that
Cool.
means all that's left is to hear your absolute favorite film with the illustrious Peter Lorre. I'm ready.
Well,
Give it to me.
so this is a film that I feel like is highly underrated. It's probably one of my top favorite films of all time. Top fave film.
I let it slide because you did put Fave right after it.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
that's
my,
an okay. Let that
yeah,
unpack.
yeah,
This time.
yeah. My fave film, or one of my favorite films of all time, and that is the film All Through the Night that has Humphrey Bogart, Peter Lorre, Conrad Veidt, Jackie Gleason, Frank Mayhew, and actually Peter's wife for a time, Karen Byrne. And this is the thing I was going to show you. I don't know if you can see it very good.
Yeah.
This is an original poster that is advertising. It was in a magazine that was advertising a showing in London, I
Wow.
believe. of All Through the Night. But
Oxford
here's
Street.
Conrad Veidt, Peter Lorre, Karen Byrne,
Peter, yeah, I see him.
and Humphrey
That's
Bogart.
wow.
So yeah, and it says Killer Bogart goes after the just Gestapo. So basically, it was made pre World War II,
Uh-huh.
and it's basically about the like Bogart kind of plays a gangster who loves cheesecake, which is kind of, weird in its own way. I love cheesecake. So, but basically there's this baker who brings cheesecake to this cafe that Bogart goes to every morning. And that day he ended up showing up late. And whenever the baker goes back to his bakery, Peter Lorre, who is one of the Gestapo, is there to talk to this German baker and basically trying to tell him he needs to get the information like he said he was going to. And the baker in turn is murdered. And Bogart kind of gets thrown into the middle of this whole thing. And Bogart doesn't want anything to do with, the war. It's in Europe. It's not bothering us. We're making money over here. Who cares? And Bogart is slowly like drug in to this criminal underworld of Nazis who are trying to uh, basically sabotage and destroy things in New York Harbor.
Oh,
And
okay.
it's such a wild journey and wild ride. And like I said, Laurie's performance in it is just, bar none in my opinion. Like to me, this is peak Laurie. Like it doesn't get any better than his performance as Peppy in this.
Wow.
And like I said, in Bogart's, how he's kind of like resistant to this whole idea of, you know, the Germans taking over Europe, that's their problem. We don't care what the Germans and what the Brits and what France is doing. We're doing our own thing here. And then to find out that they've actually infiltrated New York and are going to cause havoc and just him getting drug into the middle of it. It's just, I think it's such a fascinating film. And in my opinion, I love it more than Casablanca. And it's just such,
Wow.
and it has a lot of the same players. I mean, you got Bogart, you
Yeah.
got Conrad Veidt and Peter Lorre in it. And this came out before Casablanca. So, but yeah, I think it's a Warner Brothers film. I think it's, if you haven't seen it yet, you need to see it. You get to see a young Jackie Gleason in it. And then also Frank McHugh's in it, which he's in, some Cagney films and stuff like that. But yeah, it is such an awesome film. I mean, I'll put it on. It's one of those films. I think I got like 3 or 4 films I will put on the background as I'm cleaning or something like that. This
Uh-huh.
is one of them. Under the Silver Lakes one, the movie Gettysburg's one. So like, those are like the three that I just can throw on in the background and do stuff on that I love so much. But yeah, this is definitely up there for sure. So if you've never seen it, I highly recommend. And get you some cheesecake whenever you're watching it.
There you go. I'm gonna get some cheesecake.
Yeah.
That is an absolute great pick, especially the fact that it's, at least to me, obscure.
Yes,
Um,
very obscure film.
it's weird to think now that they are in 3 movies together, Bogart and
Yeah.
Peter Lorre.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Well, there's actually more than that. There was another one that I didn't bring up. It was called The Passage of, gosh, I can't, something. And it's basically Laurie and Bogart are on a ship together and during World War II. I can't think of
Really?
the name of it. Yeah, it's a pretty good film. It's not bad. If I'm talking Laurie war movies, I think The Cross of Lorraine, I think it's Lorraine, I think is what it's called. That's probably my favorite Peter Lorre, like, war film, in my opinion. But yeah, All Through the Night is such, like I said, I just feel like it's just such an amazing film, and I can just put it on and just watch it over and over and over. And each time, each time I find something new that I love about it. So, but yeah, I found this poster and I'm like, I have to have it. It's such a cool artwork, and I love those, 30s and 40s style movie posters, that are
Oh
so
yeah.
iconic. And I mean, nothing wrong with the work Neil does. We all love Neil's work, but there's
Yeah,
something
yeah.
about that golden age of cinema that's just, beautiful.
Yeah. No, I'm with you. One of the things on the wall is a lobby card like that from
Hmm.
a Mexican film called El Diablo de Pistol, but it basically means the tie pin of the devil. And it's just, it's just
Yeah.
easy, but
Yeah.
got that same kind of art and stuff. So I'm right there with you, man.
Yeah.
But
So
yeah,
yeah, you
much
definitely
love
have
to,
to check that out
yeah,
for sure.
I will. It's on my list.
So what's
Uh,
your number one?
wow. So my absolute favorite Peter Lorre film is actually was released 1 year before his death. He died in 1964. Uh, he was either 59 or 60. But I'm talking about this is just a master class in acting. You've got Basil Rathbone, Joe E. Bryan, Joyce Jameson, um, Boris Karloff, Vincent Price, and Peter Lorre playing in the comedy of terrors. I actually have this on Laserdisc.
Wow.
So I've had this since the early 90s. And it's just such a fun film. So Karloff plays the owner of a funeral home, and the Undertaker's Waldo Trumbull, who's played by Vincent Price, and his sidekicks Felix, who's played by Peter Lorre, they are saying that since business is drying up, they're going to have to go out and drum up some of their own businesses. So they're going to murder some people, and that'll keep them from getting fired. And it truly is a comedy of eras
Hmm.
because the slapstick style of it just
Yeah.
you're not scared through the movie. You're just trying not to laugh. Karloff is drunk through the entire thing. Felix is so jumpy. He wants to, run away at every turn. And Vincent Price is just, he's phenomenal. I mean, he can do no wrong. Vincent Price can do no wrong for me. But I love this film, and you've got the lovely Joyce Jameson as well as
Hmm.
Boris Karloff's wife. Um, so are you familiar with this one?
Yo, yeah, for sure. Yeah, yeah, it's a yeah, because Karloff's like got like 5 o'clock shadow, and he's like drunk at the table like all the time.
He plays the violin at some point, but
Yeah,
he's
yeah,
so drunk through the entire
yeah,
movie.
yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, yeah, those 60s, I mean those 60 Laurie Karloff films and they're something special for sure. There's just so many great performances. I mean, there's a Karloff and Laurie performance called I think it's called The Boogeyman Will Get You, I believe.
oh,
And it's kind of an interesting one. It's a little different, but yeah, if you like Laurie and Karloff together, of course you'll find out it's definitely my top pick. But I think it's called The Boogeyman Will Get You. It's kind of an interesting one too to check out.
the boogeyman will get you. I'll have to
Yeah, I'm
find
pretty
that.
sure. I'm pretty sure it's what it's called. But yeah, I mean, there's so many. Like I said, there's so many great Laurie films. To choose from, and if anyone dives down the rabbit hole, you know, so many great performances. Man Behind the Face is another one, but yeah, it's just so yeah. And then, like I said, all the '60s stuff. It's just the amount of work that he put into and to be forgotten is very sad, in my opinion. So hopefully this will kind of get the word out to everyone so they can get their fave five Peter
There you
Lorre
go.
films.
Look at you, man. You know
Yeah,
what you're doing.
yeah.
He did have a lot of TV appearances as well.
Yeah. Yeah. Like
Um,
Route 66, I think, is like one of the more popular ones,
yeah,
I
and then he
think.
did 77 Sunset Strip,
Hmm.
the Kraft Suspense Theater, DuPont Show of the Week, um, just Checkmate. A lot of times he just made one appearance, but then he was on Red Skelton 6 different times.
Yeah. Which where I live at is close to a place called Vincent's, Indiana, and that's actually where Red Skelton's born. And
Really?
yeah, it's kind of amazing. There's this place that's called the Pantheon Theater, which they've remodeled into like a community center thing now. But it was Red Skelton was actually selling newspapers out front, and this guy came up to him and said, "Hey, are you going to see the show tonight? There's a vaudeville act in town." And he said, "Oh, I got to sell all my papers before I could even dream about that." And he said the guy bought all of his papers. So
Really?
he went home and his mom gave him some money for some popcorn and a ticket. And he went to the show and he said he was up in the balcony. And then when the curtain opened up, the man who had bought the newspapers came through the curtain. It was Ed Wynn.
Wow.
So he
That is
said,
cool.
yeah, there's a story like him. There's a TV appearance where he actually does an interview and he tells the whole story and he does the Ed Wynn impersonation, which Ed Wynn's one of my favorite, comedy actors. And Red Skelton says he goes down behind the curtain and Ed Wynn tells him like about the footlights and everything. And he said he looked behind the curtain and saw the audience coming back in. He fell in love. And then after that, that's whenever he started traveling and doing his thing. But yeah, they actually have like a little statue of a paper boy of Red Skelton. And then Vincent's University
Cool.
actually has the Red Skelton Performing Arts Center and Museum. And you can go into the museum. They have a bunch of Red's paintings and his costumes. And
Wow,
they
I
even
never
have
did.
yeah, and they have they also because Red Skelton bought Charlie Chaplin Studios, which is now the Jim Henson Studio, which I think they're doing something different with it now. But there was actually concrete there, and it had Charlie Chaplin's. They wrote his name in the concrete, and then Ed Wynn did, and Red Skelton, and they've actually brought those to Vincent. So if you're ever in the Indiana area close to Vincent's, be sure to stop in. There's a lot of other cool history there too. But yeah, they actually have Red Skelton's house. You can drive by and see it's right across from the Performing Arts Center. So it's pretty cool.
Wow, that is cool. I'll have to check that out. I do find it interesting that neither of us picked any of his Mr. Moto films.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah, those.
yeah. I mean, that's what he's most, back in the day, that's what he was kind of typecast as for a while. And, I think it was good money, but he just wanted to get away from that. He actually kind of did a role similar to that in one of my favorite, and probably my second favorite Invisible Man film, Secret Agent, I believe is what it's called, or Invisible
Oh yeah,
Agent.
yeah.
And he plays a Japanese spy in that, but he does a very good performance as a villain in that film as well. But the just his little side roles here and there. Some of them just I feel like steal the whole steal all the performances from the movie, like Stranger on the Third Floor. I mean,
Mhm.
his role was so small, but yeah, to me he stole the whole film.
Yeah. Yeah, and it must have been popular because he did like 8 or 10 of them at least.
Yeah, yeah, Mr. Moto was pretty popular. I mean, I haven't watched them all, but I've watched a couple of them, and they're a little, it's not probably for everybody's taste,
No,
but
no,
it's
definitely cultural appropriation, but
yeah, yeah,
interesting that Peter Lorre played him and Boris Karloff played
yeah,
the same character. And it's like
hmm
both of them are so white that, how do you do
yeah,
that? But
yeah.
no. So one of the things I wanted to ask you, have you ever heard the story about when Vincent Price and Peter Lorre went to Bela Lugosi's funeral?
No,
So I saw this when I was popping around. So supposedly the story goes is that the two of them show up, and of course Lugosi was decked out in his Dracula costume, full
Yeah,
costume,
okay,
everything,
yep.
and he's buried in it. So they're both supposedly standing by the casket, paying their last respects, and Laurie leans over to Price and he goes, "Do you think we should put a stake through his heart just to be sure?"
I could see him saying that's hilarious. Actually, you know, of course, Dave Du Bois. Uh,
Mhm.
we did an interview with Bela Lugosi, son Bela Lugosi Jr. And we asked him, is it really true? And he said, yeah. He said my dad has one of the capes, and he's 6 feet under with it. And I'm just like, wow, it's
Wow.
just it's so cool that something they did that for him because that role was so iconic. And I
Yeah,
mean,
both on stage and then on
yeah,
screen.
100%. I mean that accent, it's still today. I mean, even when Adam Sandler did Dracula, you know what I mean? Oh man.
Yeah, I got to go to San Diego Comic Con in 2024, and one of the exclusives they had was a reproduction of Dracula's ring. And
Wow.
that was the one thing I mean I had to pick up one of those, and
Yeah.
it's cool. And I'm never taking it out of the box because the box is beautiful as well.
Yeah.
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 But oh yeah, so awesome.
Yeah, I
Um,
mean, there's so much people can learn from classic cinema, and I feel like it's really sad that so many people don't know more about classic film, so they can kind of see what inspired some of the bigger movies that they saw. I mean, like Indiana Jones, the guy with the melting, I can't think of his name, the guy who wore the
yeah,
black hat with the melting face. I mean, if that guy wasn't based on Peter Lorre, I don't know, you know what I
yeah,
mean? I
exactly.
mean, yeah, I mean, it's like, like there's so much inspiration from these classic films, and I mean, I catch myself sometimes I'm watching a classic film and I'm like, wait a second, like this has to have inspired this thing. And it, of course it did. So, it's always good to kind of dive in and see, what inspired some things, because you may just even love that more than what you did,
Yeah, yeah.
the other
And
film.
sometimes things will catch you, and not even necessarily about old horror films, but just old films in general.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes you'll come across something and it is just freaking funny.
Oh
Just,
yeah.
I mean, laugh out loud funny. Um, just
You-
today on the way home, they were playing NBC's theater, and it was my my favorite wife. Yeah, it was my favorite wife with Cary Grant and a young Loretta Young, and it's all about he's getting married. On the day that he's getting married is the 7 years from when his wife was drowned at sea.
Mhm.
Well, she's not, and she shows up that day of all days. And so there's this big, thing where they meet up at the hotel, and he's got the new wife and her, and man, just in like the 30 minutes on the way home, I laughed out loud 4 or 5 times,
Mhm.
and it's like I've never even heard of this movie before.
Yeah.
That's why when people talk about, oh, I could never retire, I wouldn't have anything to do with myself.
Yeah.
I'd be watching 5 movies a week. I mean, 5 movies
Yeah.
a day.
Yeah, well, it's just like when you're talking about finding something funny. There's, I love the Three Stooges, and I was watching one the other day where Curly gets knocked out, and Moe's like slapping him on the face, and he goes, "Come on, kid, tell me your name so we can tell your mother." And Curly wakes up, looks at him, and goes, "My mother knows my name."
Oh, those guys, man. And
Oh,
women just don't get it. I've never
yeah.
met a woman who's like, oh, yeah, the Three Stooges are funny. Okay.
I love the Three Stooges. I mean, I love the Marx Brothers, and I never really got into the Marx Brothers until here recently. But, just, I would have loved to have seen a collab between the Stooges and the Marx Brothers. I mean, I feel
Oh,
like that's
what?
one thing that never happened. And, or like, which I'm probably going to get hate for this, but I'm not the biggest Abbott and Costello fan. I always thought, it'd been so cool to see the Three Stooges interact with the Universal monsters. Like, I think that'd been like the most,
Oh,
hilarious thing
yeah.
in the world.
That
Or
one where Abbott and Costello meet Frankenstein
Stein,
that has
yeah.
Bela Lugosi and
Uh-huh.
Strange and
Mm-hmm.
just,
Lon Chaney Jr., I think's in it,
yeah,
right? Or
yeah.
maybe not.
And then at the very end, when they've escaped all the monsters, and they're like, "Oh man, I'm so glad we're done with all those monsters," you hear the Invisible Man say, "Oh, we're not finished, boys."
And it's
That was
Vincent
Vincent
Price.
Price. Yes, yes.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, if you're
Yeah.
ever interested, we did bookend episodes where I had two ladies on. The first one we did was Fave 5 Vincent Price movies, and then the second one was Vincent Price um, moments, where we talked about
Mm.
moments, TVs.
Yeah.
So I learned a lot about him from those two ladies. They both, you know, both
Yeah.
told me a lot.
Yeah, I love Vincent. I mean, all those guys, Vincent Price, and the weird thing is, like, they, especially in the 60s and 50s, they cast Laurie as like kind of like this monster, creepy guy. And it's like most of his catalog, he's just like, he's not a monster. He was never Igor or, Dr. Frankenstein's assistant. And that's what he
Right.
gets, his character gets typed. It's just so weird how pop culture like can take somebody and twist them into something that they never were before. Yeah, I mean, he did the comedy of terrors and stuff like that in the 60s, but prior to that, I mean, he really, besides Mad Love and
Yeah.
I mean, everything else, I mean, Casablanca, All Through the Night, it's very very strange, like how he was able to, you know, like be this guy after death, basically, it's just
Mhm.
fascinating to me.
I'm with you. For me, I was a big Karloff fan growing up.
Yeah.
I actually used to have, do you remember they were called video logs? No, you're probably not that old, but you used to could go into a video store and there was this I can't even explain it. They were bound together in a long strip of metal and then they were hooked into a thing. So it looked like one big book, like a big Bible on a pedestal.
Hmm.
And you could go there and flip through it and it would tell you the movies that were released on VHS or whatnot. And I happened to be in the library one day when they were because they put out updates. So you take all of those pages and throw them away and put the new pages in and do them. And they were doing it, and I was like, "Hey, could I have that?" And I went through and found every Karloff movie and
Wow.
highlighted them. And it was my goal in life to watch every Karloff film.
That's
Um,
awesome.
but it wasn't until much later that I became a big Vincent Price fan.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, no, there's so
Yeah.
much out there to watch.
Yeah, yeah, because actually one of the first horror movies I ever got to watch as a kid was House on Haunted Hill. I had a VHS of it. That was kind of like my introduction to, classic horror, and until the night I snuck downstairs and my parents had HBO and I caught part of Puppet Master 2. And
Oh, Toolin's Revenge or something like that.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I love it, but I mean, when I was a kid, it gave me nightmares because I stuck downstairs and like I was like, probably like 8 or 9, and I'm like, there's this girl in bed with this guy, and I'm like, oh my gosh, where's this going? And she leaves the room, and then when she comes back in, there's Boyd on top of the guy and just cutting him up, and he jumps off the bed and comes at her, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is terrifying.
Have you ever had a chance to meet Charles Band?
Never met him.
He
No,
is. I met him twice now at the Houston Horror Film Festival, and
gotcha.
really approachable man. He loves to talk about making films stuff like that. He has a book, Confessions of a Puppet Master, and
Wow.
there's some really good stories in there as well. If you ever get a chance, do you do that
Yeah.
festival?
No, I've never been. I've only been to Texas one time. That was to change planes. I got a lot of friends in Texas that want
Yeah.
me to come down, and I would love to come to like one of the cons and stuff like that. It's just, logistically, and then,
Yeah.
the money and the flight. I mean, if someone wants to have me come as a celebrity guest and help with the travel,
Yeah,
yeah,
there
I
you
mean,
go. You're down for that.
I'll be down. I'll be down for sure. I'll be down there, tomorrow.
I'll
But
split a room with
yeah,
somebody.
yeah,
I don't
yeah,
care.
yeah, yeah. But no, it's been my goal to go down there because I've always wanted to go to, the gas station and, the text, all that stuff down there. So maybe one day,
There you
hopefully.
go. There you go. Well, I think that we have talked Peter Lorre to death
I think
tonight,
so.
and I am just so excited and happy that you made this list and were
Yeah.
able to sit down with me. So I have to tell you, thank you, sir.
Hey, no problem. There is one thing I do want to add that's kind of interesting about Peter
Sure.
Lorre. Um, so Peter Lorre it was cremated. And his remains rest in one of the coolest cemeteries I've ever been to. It's called Hollywood Forever Cemetery.
Okay, I've heard of that.
Yeah, he's in the same mausoleum as Rudolph Valentino.
Oh,
Also, and then buried in that cemetery, you have Judy Garland. She's in another mausoleum. Mel Blanc's there. Just I think Burt Reynolds is there. I mean, the list of celebrities that are in that cemetery just go on and on. And they also show movies. They have movie nights to where they actually show films on the side of the mausoleum. And I think it was 3 years ago, I went out, the ACM official, they got a deal with Leica Studios, who did the Coraline and then the Paranorman film, and they
oh
hit
yeah.
him up to do a collab. So he flew me out to be the zombie that busts through the door in the live action version of Paranorman. So that first little like B horror movie bit. So if you go on ACM official and you look up that Leica collab, I'm in that. So he had me come out, and the first night I got there, we went to Hollywood Forever and went and saw Goodfellas on the side of
Wow.
the mausoleum. And I could look over to my left, and there was the Hollywood sign. And then buried in a mausoleum about 100 yards from me is Bugsy Siegel, who was actually a gangster who was killed in a mob hit.
Yeah, yeah.
So I'm watching Joe Pesci get whacked, and 100 yards from me is an actual dead game. It was just, it was surreal to do that. But yeah, anyone, if you ever go to LA, Hollywood, and you're a cinebuff, go on Hollywood Forever's website, see if they're showing a movie that night, and if they are, get tickets, go. It is one of the coolest things in the world to do.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I
I'll
couldn't
have
imagine watching The Wizard of Oz and Judy Garland's buried behind me. That'd be so cool. But
Wow. Cool. Well, I'll check that out because I do go occasionally.
yeah,
Like I went to San Diego, but that was a one and done. I don't ever need to go
yeah,
back. It's
there you go.
so many people.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's
yeah,
great. But
yeah. Cool.
good. Well, I also want to thank all of you out there in the podcast universe for listening to this episode of Fave 5 from Fans. We're thrilled that you joined us and hope you had a fantastic time. Yeah, see what I did there? Yeah.
There we go. There we go.
If you enjoyed the podcast, we would be incredibly grateful if you shared it with a friend and gave us a glowing 5-star review on whatever podcast platform you desire. Your support means the world to us, and it helps the Plastic Microphone Studios to grow and thrive. If you didn't like this episode, you could still go and leave us a good review. Just lie, and we'll be fine with that. We're totally fine with that. So connect with
Just
us
watch
on
some Peter Lorre movies.
Connect with us on social media. Reach out to us, and let's just keep this conversation going about how great Peter Lorre was. We want to hear your stories and what roles and films you liked out of his the most. And thank you for being a part of this journey. We can't wait to keep making and sharing thrilling content, like having the director Jed Brian on the show. Where else are you going to get that, right? There you go. New episodes come out every Friday, unless they don't. So be sure to subscribe and to follow us where you can catch all of the episodes. And remember, folks, it may not be the best. It may not be the most popular, but if it's your favorite, then it's good enough for us. Thank you for joining us. Jed, take us out.
This is Jed Brian, and you are listening to Fave 5 from Fans. And we are talking about Peter Lorre tonight. So go check out some Peter Lorre films and have some fun.
Thank you.
Yes.
Yes.